Well, welcome to the leather journey, part 2 of my knife collection. And what do I do with these knives, or what do I not do with these knives? So let's start off. We'll just run through what I have. I don't have a super extensive collection, but some of these I do play with regularly in the dungeon. I'm going to say, before I forget, as we are getting older, and I'm now consider myself a senior BDSM leatherman. When you play with knives and you're negotiating a knife play scene with a bottom, be sure you ask medical questions of the person you're playing with, and you know whether they take, let's say they take a baby aspirin or take an aspirin a day. Or maybe they took aspirin because they knew they were going to do impact play and they wanted bruises and marks. You need to know if the person you're playing, doing knife play with, is on any type of blood thinner. If they're on Eloquis or Pradaxa or warfarin, I would reconsider whether you do knife play with them. Because even if you haven't negotiated any kind of blood play, anytime you use a knife, if the knife is sharp, there's a chance that there might be a slip and a little cut. You don't want to have a cut in a dungeon on someone that's on a blood thinner. So negotiate carefully and know what you're getting yourself into when you do a knife play scene with someone. So let's get started. The first fixed blade I'm going to show you is just a Gerber. This Gerber, I don't play with this Gerber. This Gerber is for safety. If I'm going to do play with saran wrap or pallet wrap, or I'm doing rope play and I need a quick way to get someone out of pallet wrap, then this Gerber is a perfect knife for doing a quick opening on a mummification done with pallet wrap or saran wrap, or even any kind of rope bondage. You need to get someone out of the harness real quickly. Then this Gerber is a nice tool to do that with. So that's kind of in my toy bag to have as a safety knife for certain types of play in the dungeon. What I don't like is any knife that has an edge on two sides. I have this knife. It was given to me because the sheath has a picture of a mermaid on it. The handle has a mermaid. And when I was, back when House Mermaid was active and I was the headmaster, people would bring me gifts. So I've kept this knife and I cherish it, but I don't play with this particular type of knife in the dungeon because I prefer a knife that only has one clean edge, as opposed to some of the fancy looking knives. This Smith & Wesson looks very much like that knife I just showed you, but it actually only has a sharp edge on one side and the other side is not sharp. So it's a single edge knife, and it has the same look as that two-edged dagger had, but it's a single edge dagger. So I do play with that from time to time. Most of my knives I've gotten a custom sheath made for, and my sheaths are all done by Buck at Waterhole Leather. So I highly recommend Buck. This particular knife I bought in Santa Fe, New Mexico, was made by the Albuquerque Knife Company. And it's got nice inlay turquoise. I won't say it's a super fancy knife or sharp or expensive knife. I liked it because the weight of the handle, it felt good in my hand. And it's kind of like it's just a nice size knife for knife play in the dungeon because it looks substantial, right? This particular knife actually was given to me by my son-in-law. It's a buck 119. And again, I had a custom-made sheath made for it at Waterhole Leather. And it, you know, it's a buck hunting knife. It's just a nice knife. And it's been on many vanilla deer hunts. Now it's being used for dungeon play. This particular knife has meaning to me because I retired Navy. So this is the Navy version of a K-bar. It's a World War II era Mark II, and it's been used, got quite a bit of use, got some patina on it. And it didn't have a sheath. I picked it up off eBay for a pretty good price because it didn't have a sheath. Not having a sheath didn't mean anything to me because I knew I was going to go to Buck at Waterhole Leather and have a custom sheath made. And I'm kind of continued with my mermaid theme. Buck's humored me and came up with a design that that he's done several times. This particular knife is kind of like a gag knife. I tease everyone that it's the world's smallest fixed blade knife. And it actually has an edge, and I've used it to trim crackers with. It fits nicely in my whip repair kit because it doesn't take up much room. This is a fixed blade. It's on a chain, so it's a neck knife, and it deploys just by pulling it out. It's a Smith & Wesson. And in some states, I believe these little neck knives are illegal. I forget which one, but as with any knife, be sure that in the jurisdiction you're in that it's going to be acceptable to carry it, or how to carry it, how to transport it safely to and from the dungeon for play. This particular knife is just one of the sock knives that goes with a kilt set, and actually it is sharp and has a very sharp point. And there's a Scottish word which I would butcher, so I'm not going to say it. I just call it the Scottish stocking knife. It goes in the stocking when you're wearing your kilt. So this is just a Schrade old timer. Was given to me. Actually, it's a limited edition, but it's not a real expensive knife, but was given to me as a Christmas present. And most modern knives have a web sheath. I had Buck at Waterhole Leather make me a sheath for it, and I do carry it in the dungeon. It fits nicely in the hand, and it's easy to use for knife play. So this actually is my favorite knife for knife play in the dungeon because it doesn't have a restraining loop. It just snaps in place. And Buck was able to maintain the original plastic insert that sheaths the knife and snaps it in place, and then made a nice leather sheath for it. I like it because when I'm doing whip play, it's easy to pull it and use it for knife play, and then easy to resheath it, and it's secure on my belt. This particular knife has some history. Foxy made the sheath for it. And for those of you that know Foxy, he liked the Western look, like authentic Indian kind of look. So he stayed with that. The sheath's made out of deer skin and has a restraining loop. This particular knife was given to me by Pain Boy, and its blade is obsidian, It's obsidian blade shaped like an arrowhead, and it has a deer horn handle. Okay. And it was given to me by Pain Boy at Floating World many years ago, right before a whip scene I did with him. And for those of you that know Pain Boy, he's a wonderful whip bottom, and I guess you would classify him as an extreme masochist, but a wonderful, wonderful friend. And he gave me that knife. The interesting thing about an obsidian blade knife is it's made out of stone, and it carries energy very well. So when I'm whipping someone or doing impact play with them, I can take that obsidian knife and use that knife to move energy around in their back or the target zone, whatever I was working with. So it's an interesting knife to play with. Don't know that stone blade would actually cut anyone. I guess the potential's there, but I mainly use it to move energy. And moving energy with a knife blade is a whole different type of knife play. When we think of knife play, we think of using sharp edges or points, but the cold metal, the steel, can absorb energy, and you can use that experience or the knife blade to move energy around. I would say most of my knife play that I incorporate with whips is mostly about moving energy and trying to move energy through the chakras. So for those of you that have followed my Whips in the Dungeon channel, you know that I work a lot with the heart and the root chakra and getting energy to flow between those two chakras. One of the ways that I try to achieve that is with my fixed blade knives that I play with. The traditional folders I tend to use for more erotic knife play, and the fixed blade knives I tend to carry on my belt as kind of mind fucks, or to use when I'm moving energy during an impact play scene. That's it for my fixed blades. As always, thanks for watching the Leather Journey. Leave a comment below. Tell me what kind of fixed blades you enjoy and which ones you carry the most and use the most in your own dungeon play.